My name is Ebenezer, and this is my presentation on a 4 by 1 multiplexer. To begin with, a multiplexer is a digital circuit that selects one input out of several and passes it to a single output. So there are several types of multiplexers, but then in this video, I'm going to talk about the 4 by 1 multiplexer, where the 4 is referring to the inputs and then the 1 is referring to the output. Okay, so as you can see, we have the inputs labeled over here, and we have the AND gates, and over here we have the OR gates together with the output, and over here are the selectors. What the selectors do is they determine which of the inputs here should be displayed or should be returned to the output. So, um, for instance, we have the selectors at 0, 0. When I decide to run the simulation, it's going to return the value at input 0 or I0. So, for example, we have 0, 0 here as the selectors. When I change this to 1, realize that the output changes to 1. When I change this to 0, 1, and I change this to 1, realize that the output is the I1. Then when I change this to 1, 1, the output becomes I3. And then when I change this to I10, the output is I2. So that is how the 4 by 1 multiplexer works. It has 4 inputs, and then it displays only one output based on the values the selectors are given. That is the binary values. Next up is the decoder, and I'm going to be talking about the 2 by 4 decoder in particular. So what a decoder does is that it decodes n inputs into maximum of 2 exponent n unique outputs, but then it only displays only one output at a time. Now, this is what I mean. So in this case, we have a 2 by 4 decoder. So we have 2 inputs and then we have 4 outputs. So what the decoder does is that the two inputs, it takes the two inputs, right, and then it produces 2 exponent, 2 outputs of unique outputs of unique kinds, right? So um 2 exponent 2 giving us 4, meaning it gives us 4 outputs. But then at the end of the day, it's only going to display or it's going to return one unique or one hot output value, right? So another thing about decoders is that some or most of them come with what we call the enable input. And what the enable input does is that it enables the input to be returned to the output, right? So currently the input enable is off. That is why all the values are reading 0. When I turn it on, realize that the logic of the decoder starts working. Now, comparing this to a multiplexer, you can see that the inputs of this decoder is some way somehow serving as the selector of the multiplexer, right? So in the multiplexer, we said that it determines which output to bring out based on the binary values it contains, right? So the same applies over here. We have 0, 0, and initially in the previous explanation, realize that 0, 0 displays the input 0 or the I0, which is over here. Realize that 0, 0 will display the I0, right? So it's the same concept that I have applied here. So 0, 0 automatically enables this or returns 1 over here since the input enable is on. Now when I change the value of b to 1, this goes off, y0 goes off, and then y1 is on because now we have 0, 1 as the input. Then when I turn this off and then I turn this on, y2 comes on, and then when I turn this on, y3 is also on. So this is it for the 2 by 4 decoder, where the number 2 is referring to the inputs or the number of inputs, and then the 4 is referring to the number of outputs. And then most or some decoders come along with what we call the input enable or the enable input. Then when the enable input is off, there is no reading or there is nothing going on. There's no input reading. The only way for um, you to get your input readings is when you turn it on. Most other decoders don't come with enable input, right? They just work automatically like that. Yeah, thank you.